Hey y'all. Hey y'all. Greetings. Greetings. Peace and blessings to everybody coming into the chat. Come on in. Come on in. When you come in, go ahead, tap that like button. Make it do what it do, y'all. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday to y'all. Yes. We woke up this morning 10 toes down, at least in most places. Um, we woke up with 10 toes down. We were able to get up in our right minds. I pray and say and claim that we were able to do something and that we were able to be productive and be grateful and be humble and be joyful and be appreciative and be loving and be kind and be generous and be willing to sacrifice and be willing to share the good and stifle the bad, dismiss the bad, rebuke the bad, right? This is a war we're in, y'all. And the more we are mindful of that, being cognizant of that fact, will put us in a better place, in a more appropriate place for us to understand that indeed we are in a war. And when you are aware that you are in a war, then you know how to move accordingly. You prepare as such. You know what to focus on. You know what not to focus on. You know what to dismiss. You know what to be aware of. All of these things matter, right? And so, not to belabor the point, I just wanted to say greetings, peace, and blessings to everybody. Come on in, passing through Louisiana. Well, peace and blessings to you. So, if you're not able to stay, I would encourage you to definitely go watch the replay at some point, right? This is going to be good. This is going to be a good one. Greetings, Strawberry Shortcake. Hey, sis, we got Laverne in the house, aka Your Thoughts, right? Thank you for being here. I appreciate y'all. So, listen, um, you know, I have been listening to, I'm just going to dive right into it, right? So, being from this sector, even though I listen and I dibble and dabble in other sectors as well, if you could do me a favor and put a one in the chat if the music is okay, put a two if it's too loud, if it's not a good balance with my voice, one if it's okay, if it's cool, everything is straight, a two if I need to turn it down a little bit. Um, I appreciate you. So, Audrey, hey, Audrey, blessings, peace and blessings. Spending time with my family and friends passing through. Yes, do that. Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely enjoy yourself. Make some memories. Take a couple of pics. Eat some really good, delicious ethnic foods if you are in a position to do so. Give some hugs, show some love, get some kisses. Tell people that they matter along with showing them that they matter, right? Thank you for coming through. Thank you for keeping me in your ear. But enjoy your family and come back and watch the replay when you're able. Hey, Dimple D. Hey, peace and blessings. Great to see you in the chat. Yes, thank you for being here. So I don't see any ones or twos. So I guess the music must be okay, or the level of the music. I'm going to turn it down just a tad. Just a tad. Okay, that sounds better to me. Yes. Okay. So, um, let me get back because y'all know me. I'll go left, or right. Because it seems like lately left is not the good direction to take. It's not the good turn to take. It's not the good. I don't like that because I'm left-handed. So I tend to think that left is a good thing. It's not as common and it's accurate and it's intentional. But I don't know. I guess lately it just hasn't been applicable to a lot of the things going on symbolically in this sector. But so when it comes to me listening to a lot of the back and forth when it comes to content creators, people in the chat, stand buyers, people that kind of dip in and out that have something to say, there seems to be a really big imbalance in a big majority of people. And I want to go ahead and start off, even though it's not isolated to women, but because the way God designed us, and I always feel like, when the balance is upset, that usually means things are out of order of the way that God created it to be, right? In my opinion, all these ideas and opinions are strictly my opinion, right? Um, I think a lot of it comes because we have lost our way when it comes to knowing what our roles are, what our responsibilities are, what our position is in relationships. And I'm not just talking about a man and woman relationship. It can be a relationship between a parent and a child. It could be a business relationship when you're going to get a service taken care of by a business, a corporation, whatever applies, right? It seems like we're out of order there too. We go to get a specialized service because if we could do it on our own and fix the issue on our own, we would do so. But when we cannot, we go to somebody we feel we can. And usually, if you look at it from a rational or a logical standpoint, they have the upper hand. But because it has been ingrained and we have been misled to feel like the customer is always right, we don't have to go leading in respect. We don't have to go leading um, in order, right? Just at least breaking the ice. We go in with guns blazing, double-edged sword tongue. We go in there disrespecting, telling people what we want, and if we don't get that, we just won't walk away quietly. We're going to badmouth your business. We're going to put your business on social media and do what we can in order to sabotage you because I didn't get what I want. When when it's all said and done, all of this could have been avoided if I would have just been careful about my approach, or I've been more mindful about my approach, right? And so just using those as examples, I just feel like the discussion is due, right? In order for us, and I can speak from a woman's perspective, but I can also speak from my personal experiences dealing with men, seeing how men respond. And from that vantage point, I will extend an opinion on that as well, right? And so I'm going to ruffle some feathers. I'm not going to get up, everybody's not going to agree. That's fine. That's fine. But I'm telling you, what we're doing overall is not working. Our core family is disintegrating overall, right? We still have a lot of us still have the concept of core family. We still understand what it requires. We still can comprehend that there are roles, that there are positions, that there are responsibilities, that they have limitations. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have is that we're living in a world where there are no more limitations, there are no more boundaries. It's a one size fits all. We're equal, we're men and women, we're on the same level. And therefore, because as women we have evolved in these past decades to become self-sufficient, now the roles are reversed and we can tell a man what to do. We can buck up against a man. We can demean a man. We can emasculate a man. We can insult and disrespect because when it's all said and done, we don't depend on that man like we used to, or our forefathers did, our parents, our grandparents. And therefore, if that man walks out and he dismisses himself, we gonna be straight. Yeah, but guess what? When that time surpasses, whether we admit it or not, we're going to be lonely. We're going to miss that covering and that protection. There's going to be a feeling of lack. in some areas. But I guess what it all boils down to at the end of the day is what women or men feel that lack is worth sacrificing everything else, right? Being self sufficient, going out and making your own money, coming home and doing what you want to do. You don't have to answer to nobody. You don't have to talk to nobody. You don't have to be held accountable for nothing, right? And so, yes, Miss Your Thoughts, two heads are always better than one, right? And so I just bid that the conversation, it won't hurt to have it when it comes to, again, me speaking from a one woman's perspective. I don't feel that men are always right. I don't feel that women are always wrong. I don't feel that women are always right. And I don't feel that men are always wrong. Again, balance is definitely the key word that we should be aiming for if we're looking at relationships. Women should not be bragging or should not be boasting about being able to do what men can do, because first of all it's false, second of all it's misconstrued, and third of all, if you let it go on long enough, you're going to be delusional, right? Because the last time I checked, not only do I not have the desire to go out and change a flat tire, I know how. But if I can avoid that, trust me, that is not something you're going to catch me on camera doing. No disrespect to those that do. I'm just saying that that's not something I'm willing to take and put that on my plate and say, you know what, in order to prove a point or in order to prove myself independent and self sufficient, if I catch a flat, honey, I'm gonna be calling AAA. I'm gonna be waving down a masculine looking man in a truck. It look like he got some tools. Now, trust me, I'm gonna vet him when he pull up, but I'm not getting ready to just hop down and change no tire for myself. And I'm just using that as an example. Now, if it came to a survival mechanism, I do what needs to be done. But if I don't have to, I'm not. First of all, men need to feel like men. Men need to be reaffirmed as men. Men need to be reinforced that it is okay to be a man, and without interference or the possibility of being emasculated by not another man, but by a woman. And then we want to be covered. We want that same even battle playing field, right? When it comes to us and our roles, we don't want nobody tap dancing on what we got going on and what we felt we were created to be and do, and what our limitations are. So why is it okay for us to feel like it is just the norm for us to do it to our men and then expect for them to be men when it suits us and when it suits our needs, right? So let me go ahead and just glance at my chat real quick, do some housekeeping. I want to welcome, hey, CC. We got, I don't think anybody else is new. Philly 2K24. Peace and blessings to you. We got Cutting Edge in the house. Yes, to my mods, please feel free to, if we have people in the chat, including mods or just people that are commenting in the chat, if they have channels, absolutely feel free to post the links to their channels. Sis, make sure yours goes in there as well. Thank you so much, Audrey, for addressing that and for posing the question. So for anyone that I've missed, I apologize and I'm sorry. But you know where my heart is, right? So I do want to kind of start off. I love giving different perspectives. I'm going to propose a couple of different video sources, and I'm going to do male and female because I think it's really important to give different perspectives and to give different opinions based on people's personal experiences. And because we're a community, right? And even if it may not be personally applicable to your situation or to you, it's something you can still probably relate to, or you know someone close to you that is going through a similar experience. So I just want to give a couple of little clips. They're not long. Just like I said, a voice to someone else's face and their personal give a platform for their story to be told, and just to kind of broaden it out that this is not a one size fits all. Relationships are subjective, they're individualized, they're tailor made, and they are not something that is going to be a one size fits all for the rest of the population that chooses to engage in relationships. You have to think about cultural backgrounds, you got to think about their upbringing, their foundation, their if applicable religious beliefs, spiritual settings, all of these, just location, all of these things make a difference. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. All right, y'all.
Man wants a yin to his yang, not a yin, 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 motorcycle ass mouth. And the only thing you're turning on at that point is a man's fight or flight response. And I promise you, you are not going to like that man. So you have to ask yourself this question: am I trying to win an argument, or am I trying to solve a problem?
Okay, so I want to address what he said, and I know it's very short, but one thing he said that really captured piqued my attention is a flight or fight response. First of all, a man has to go out into this world and fight everybody else, even if it's just in his mind, right? The fact is that's his reality. He's going to, because it's not his safe haven, it's not his safe place, it's not where he's comfortable. So everything external and outside of his palace, he is going to be on alert. He is going his senses are going to be heightened and peaked. Survival mode. You're like that all day long, and then you come home and you feel like you can't turn that off with somebody that you're sharing everything with, somebody that you are going so hard for, your significant other, and if you have children, your children. Even if it's just you and your significant other, somebody's got to pay the bills. That covering physically, like the house, the apartment, the townhome, the estate, that has to be maintained and covered by somebody, right? So if he's participating in that and he's the primary one that's taking care of that, when he comes home, he's going to have an expectation that there's a safe place, that is a safe haven, that his peace resides there. And if you're a disrespectful woman, you're combative, you're always tit for tat, you always got something to say, you're always thinking of self, and you're not thinking of your significant other, of that man. You're not really concerned about what he's had to deal with all day out there outside of his safe haven. That man's going to pick that up, and eventually he's going to check out. And then if he seeks comfort and peace outside of you, now you're going to become a victim, and you're going to say, well, I do this and I do that and I do this, but were you his peace? Were you his safe place? When he came home, did he look forward to coming home? Or did you make him resentful about coming home? That matters, whether people think it does or not. It matters, right? And so he seemed like he was speaking from a place of experience. And I want to play that one more time. just to give it a little more context.
A man wants a yin to his yang, not a yin 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 motorcycle ass mouth. And the only thing you're turning on at that point is a man's fight or flight response. And I promise you, you are not going to like that man. So you have to ask yourself this question: am I trying to win an argument, or am I trying to solve a problem?
That's important. Am I trying to win an argument, or am I trying to solve a problem? That's night and day. And that's also going to be such an antithesis that it's going to determine how he deals with you. If he deals with you, on what level he deals with you. Women are very good at turning the tables, becoming victims, manipulating the situation. Not discounting that men have that same ability right now, though I am focusing and speaking on women because I am one and I can relate and I feel qualified to be able to speak on that personally, right? And so when it comes to a man coming home and finding that to be his safe space, it's not the dwelling, it's what occupies the dwelling. That's why a lot of men that live by themselves don't really, they call it a man cave, but that's a nice way of saying that a man doesn't really take a whole lot of interest, typically, in his environment. That's why they call it the woman's touch, right? That's why usually the assignment goes to the woman because the woman has the innate ability, more times than not, to create that home feeling. But it's not about the dwelling, it's about the energy, it's about the environment, it's about how that man feels about coming home. That matters. It absolutely matters, and it weighs a lot more than how the house necessarily is decorated or how it looks. It's more about when he comes home, do you have a smile for him? Can you get out of yourself long enough to say to that man, baby, how was your day? And be and sincere and genuine about it, right? You really care, not because you're role playing or you feel like that's what he wants to hear. These are things that matter. And living in the times that we're living in, a lot of women, especially in the younger generation, they're not checking for that. And they're wondering why they're alone or lonely, or they're not yielding the results that their parents yielded at such a young age, 20s, early 30s. Women are not finding men that are suitable or that meet their expectations. But instead of looking at self, they are looking at the man. No accountability, no self reflection. They're like, because I am a female, I am attractive, I keep myself up, I'm gainfully employed, or I'm a boss and have my own business. That should be enough. But I want to, place a reminder on the table. All of that in your mind may be enough, but how enough is it when you have the ratio of 18 to 20 women per one man? Because that's where we're at. And out of those 18 to 20 women, you don't think that you are in competition with anybody just because you feel in your mind that you are putting it down, and in your mind you should not be in competition with anybody else, that you should automatically be the selection. I'm here to tell you these men are really giving women a rude awakening in this aspect, because the fact of the matter is they have realized that they do have options. Once you have options, you can set standards. Once you set standards, guess what? The ball is in your court for the most part. There's always isolated incidents. I'm talking about in general, right? And so we're going to balance this conversation out. But I feel, and through my experience, even on a personal level, allowing some transparency on my part, and I've said this before for anybody that actually, follows my page and listens to my personal experiences. I know personally what it's like to have a tongue and use it as a sword. And let me tell you, there's nothing good that comes out of that. I had to unlearn and relearn, and I had to apply certain techniques to my life, which means I had to change my whole mindset because at the end of the day, men have options. Men have choices that they're able to make. Women are not just automatically right because that's what you were born as. And it's such a huge misconception that we have generated an entire culture of women currently. Excuse me, y'all, my allergies are cutting up today. That rain, I washed some stuff around and I'm just lit up. So I apologize. But when I say that we are living in an illusion if we think that all we have to do is look pretty, put on a cute outfit, and then we don't have to show a man any respect. We don't have to show him any consideration. We don't have to meet him halfway. And we have the expectation that he needs to do everything for us, and whatever we do for him is optional or it's by choice. Not gonna work. Not gonna work. And as a result, we are really, it's in real time, y'all. They're beautiful young women, successful, educated, women that take care of their external temples, their temple on the outside, right? Lonely as hell. Don't have any children. Men ain't checking for them. And it's got the women thinking, well, what's wrong with me? Have you checked your mouth lately? Have you checked your attitude lately? If you think you're going to be able to navigate through this world and expect everything and give nothing, you're definitely in a matrix. You're in an illusion, right? And so I'm here to at least propose the idea or repropose the idea and the concept that your big butt, your pretty smile, and your paycheck or your income, if you a boss and got your own thing going on, they're a dime a dozen. But at the end of the day, what else separates you? And a lot of times women misconstrue what men want. Men want to be respected. They want to be acknowledged. They want to be appreciated. Men are simple. They appreciate the small things. They appreciate the minute things. They appreciate the minute things. The small things are what their woman can offer them that nobody else can, because it's tailor-made and specific for you. Even if it comes down to your favorite meal, to a hot bath or a hot shower being started, making sure they come home to a clean house. The kids aren't hungry and bickering and out of control if you have children, right? They don't have to come home and fight a whole nother war that they felt compelled to fight on the outside, even if it's not literal. Again, if men are in their, or if they're not in their safe space, then they're on alert. They're in survival mode. They're in provision mode. It's a whole emotion that as women, we're not going to understand, even if we mimic them by doing it for ourselves, because we're not men. We're not built to be men. We're not comprised of men, and we don't have what men have. We're not going to be able to accurately understand what they go through on an emotional, mental, psychological, or physical level, right? So I say these things because we have to regain some balance. When I listen to a lot of the issues that go on, and I'm not in any way, let me just make a disclaimer here, I'm not in any way exempting men from being responsible, from reciprocating those same expectations, such as respect, such as consideration, such as sacrifice. But right now, because I am a woman and I see a lot of the men being shut down, emasculated to the point where they just move around. They're not dealing with that. They're not dealing with it, y'all. We're going to have to do something different. We're going to have a different approach. We're going to have to be more delicate. We're going to have to sit more in our femininity. We're going to have to really recognize that this is what we were created to be and that we're not in competition with our men. Where do we go wrong with that? Why? Because we make a bag? Because we're able to be self sufficient? We're not successfully raising children on our own without the fathers in the home. Granted, there are a lot of fathers that choose not to participate in that. And I'm not speaking on them, I'm speaking on the ones that want to be fathers. And if it doesn't work out between you and that father, that you don't weaponize the children against that father. That's the type of stuff I'm speaking on. Because guess what? At the end of the day, that man's going to adapt and he's going to react accordingly. But those children are going to be affected, and it's going to affect their future relationships that they haven't even been able to form yet. Talk about it. This is real life here, right? I'm talking about the men that want to be providers. They want to participate. They want to establish legacies. They want to build families. There are a lot of them out here. Now, if you're not attracting that kind of man, then guess what? It's time to start looking within and trying to figure out why and what you are doing and contributing to the point where you are not attracting that kind of man. It can't always be somebody else's fault. It's not going to always be somebody else's fault. Even if it's in your mind, you're going to end up lonely, alone, and delusional. And you're going to always be bitter because you're going to always blame other people. We cannot continue to go this route and expect to build community. That the core family and the community is the only way, with everything that's coming down the pike, with the powers that be, their agendas, their intended outcomes, things that they have been putting into play decades before we were even made aware that that was a possibility, when they called them conspiracy theories. You think that as a single woman or a single man, you're going to benefit, you're going to be in a better position to move around and combat whatever is coming down the pike? Nope. Ain't gonna happen. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't care how much your bag is. I don't care if you got your own business. I don't care how fine you are. Looks fade, baby girl. Looks fade. Them boobies sag. That booty starts getting jiggly. The little neckline and all of that. I don't care what kind of. It's only gonna buy time, but it's inevitable. Okay. And so I want to transition a little bit and say that beauty exudes from the inside out. We live in a culture where people go to other countries to get their teeth done, their booties lifted, their boobies done, whatever it is that they don't want to put the work in to do to improve themselves, that in their mind makes them more marketable. Guess what? That's going to fall too. That's going to fade as well. I've never seen, unless that 70-year-old or 60-year-old has spent a lifetime working out 6 days a week, eating right, getting enough rest, living a stress-free life as much as possible. That's a diamond in the rough. But overall, all of the things that a lot of women value, you're going to get to an age also where you're not going to have the energy to hold down businesses and jobs like you did 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Okay. So at some point, then what? You expect your kids, if you have any, to take care of you when you get old because you're old and don't have a relationship? Is that what it is? Where we at with it? Let's talk about it. We got to think a little bit further out than 3 months, 6 months, or a year. How about 5 years? When you go to fill out a job application, if they don't ask it to you anymore, guess what? On the job application, they do in the interview. At least they used to. That was one of the top 3 questions you could bank on being asked by an interviewer is where do you plan on being in the next 5 years? What are your goals within the next 5 years? I didn't realize how much validity that particular question had. It's very important. And I think anybody seeking a relationship should be asking that potential partner the same exact question, if not 10 years out. So where do you anticipate on being in 5 years? Come on now, let's keep it 100. You walking around, and if your mouth is your impediment, if it's impeding you getting into a good relationship, a long-lasting relationship, a respectful relationship, a mutual relationship, a reciprocal relationship, it's okay to do some self-reflecting. It's okay to understand that guess what? I'm not designed to be perfect. I wasn't created to be perfect. So for me to put that expectation on myself and think that there's nothing wrong with me and that everything that goes wrong is everybody else's problem, they need to be doing reflection upon themselves because I'm good. We're delusional. We are delusional if you're walking around thinking that, right? And so, listen, this, as most conversations or most discussions that I introduce are multi-layered. This one is no different. However, sometimes the unpopular opinion and the unpopular discussion needs to be had because I've said it from day one. I don't expect everybody to agree with me. But if I touch somebody and I at least prompt and propose questions that maybe they have not entertained prior to listening to the sound of my voice, then I've done my job. I've done what I was sent to do, right? So let's go ahead and move on. Okay, so because I listen, because y'all know I get in my bag and I'll be watching the chat. So forgive me because I know my chat is super, super engaged, super intelligent. Everybody proposes such great talking points, responses, presents great questions. So I'm not minimizing it. But again, that's what happens when you have a content creator such as myself that has ADHD. And I can't concentrate on more than just one thing at a time without easily being distracted. But we ain't gonna tell nobody, right? So Michelle said, this is so important not to waste time. As you both age, you will remember one another from your youthful days. Amen. That's if you blessed. That's if you still have that type of opportunity and you're still with you. And I love Michelle Thought's life. I love it. I love it. It's not mine, and that's okay. I've made my peace with that. But God assigned me to do something different than Miss Yo. But it doesn't mean that we can't celebrate one another and we can't learn continuously from one another, right? So absolutely. Yes, indeed. There was one other one I saw up here. Okay, so I ain't gonna go too far up. I love y'all, but I can't do it because I get distracted. So let's go to this next video. And I just want to say, look, this woman really she accentuated my spirit. And when y'all see her, you're gonna know why. If you know, you know. So let's go. But not only that, but she had a whole lot of good things to say in a very short amount of time. So every word that she said, in my opinion, it mattered and it made a great impact, right? So let's go. Don't get me going. Here we go. Oh, y'all, thank you for the cash apps. I appreciate you. So I'm gonna go ahead. I know I always forget to do that. So pardon me that I'm doing it late. But if you want to be a blessing, I will definitely accept it. I appreciate it. And so yeah, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Hold on, y'all. I get to be special sometimes. Okay.
See, baby, the fact that y'all been together for years and it hasn't been perfect, it shows that you at least love each other enough to keep on trying. But when you've hit those rough spots and you decide this is your chance to break that man down with what you say, you know what you said too, right? Yeah, that stuff. In many situations, that's that kind of stuff that you can't come back from. Because it's hard for a lot of men to come out and tell you how they really feel, their deepest secrets, desires, insecurities. But if all it takes for you is to get mad at him and your tongue becomes a sword, baby, you become a part of what ruins the relationship. You ruin the chances of it healing in any type of way. Here's why. If you want to know why he's done the things that he's done, because there's always a root cause. He's not going to tell you once you cut his throat, because as much as he loves you, if he doesn't feel that he is safe with you and that you're genuine about trying to build each other up and restore the relationship, it's never going to work. Be well. See, baby, the fact that y'all been together.
Y'all, I'm gonna play that again because that was almost like me speaking, and I didn't even hear this video all the way through. I saw the hair wrap, and I heard her soft voice and her sincerity, and I was sold. But now that I've listened to it, we listened to it for the first time in totality together, right? We're gonna listen to it again. It's worth it.
For years and it hasn't been perfect, it shows that you at least love each other enough to keep on trying. But when you've hit those rough spots and you decide this is your chance to break that man down with what you say, you know what you said too, right? Yeah, that stuff. In many situations, that's that kind of stuff that you can't come back from. Because it's hard for a lot of men to come out and tell you how they really feel, their deepest secrets, desires, insecurities. But if all it takes for you is to get mad at him and your tongue becomes a sword, baby, you become a part of what ruins the relationship. You ruin the chances of it healing in any type of way. Here's why. If you want to know why he's done the things that he's done, because there's always a root cause. He's not going to tell you once you cut his throat, because as much as he loves you, if he doesn't feel that he is safe with you and that you're genuine about trying to build each other up and restore the relationship, it's never going to work.
Listen, she said it so eloquently. Let me just say this. Once you cut a man with your tongue, you have brought his defenses up. Now, inadvertently and unwillingly, he is going to look at you like he looks at people he don't know, that he doesn't know what to expect, that he does not. And yes, Miss Yo Thoughts, it definitely goes both ways. That's definitely worth mentioning. Thank you for bringing perspective to it. I am, and I hope that the women don't take this a certain type of way, but that's where my message is resonating today. And I'm going to get off into the men too. It may not be this stream because my spirit and my mind and what I've seen and what I'm observing is that men will react and they will reciprocate the energy that they are given. In most cases, I'm generalizing, right? And I say that because we are living in a time where women's voices seem to set the tone when it comes to politics, when it even comes to finances, in areas where men have known to be dominant and they have been known to rule and set precedents and have dominion. Now it has done a total flip in most instances. If at the very least, those positions are now being split and shared, right? And it has given the illusion that we are equal. Now, in some aspects, people can perceive us to be equal, but there are some aspects where we are inaccurate and we are not on the same playing field, right? And so basically, what she's saying is that once that tongue becomes weaponized and you use it as a weapon in order to tear down and in order to emasculate because you're in your feelings, you're not going to be able to take those words back. You're not going to be able to rescind that spirit that you have given him. And once he gets it one too many times, now you are the same and you're not different from anybody else outside those four walls of the dwelling that you share, that you live in, right? And so I feel really strongly about that because I have sons and it starts with your children. You teach your sons, and in my son's case, they have both of their parents, right? Being active and accessible in their lives if that's what they choose. My oldest one is grown, but he still has access if he needs it, right? So the thing is when you have children, this doesn't start when you become an adult. This starts with the mother raising and being the first female and feminine in energy and influence in her son's lives. They're going to, even if it's subconsciously, and even if they fight it because they don't like you as their mother, there are certain qualities about you that they don't want in a woman in a relationship. Subconsciously, that seed has been planted. There's going to be certain things that they're going to have to be very aware of and fight and combat and make intentional decisions that this is not what I want. This is not a woman that I choose because of this and this and this and this and this. So it doesn't start when they're grown. It starts when they're young and they're being molded and they're impressionable. Because if they can't trust their mother and they can't look for their mother to be a model of what type of woman to select, or girlfriend, first girlfriend, whatever the case may be, they're not going to have a barometer. They're going to be out there. They're going to be subjected to a lot of different things, right? And so I totally agree with her on that aspect. Now, that's why I like to give male and female perspectives. So one thing I want to say is that disrespect is unattractive no matter whether you're a male or a female. It is not an attractive quality. It seems to sting a little bit more when it comes from a female because you kind of, based on a male and a man being created in such a way, it goes down a little more palatable. I think you can tolerate it a little bit easier. But when it comes from a woman, it seems, and I could be wrong on this, I'm just going off of what I've seen, how I've been some like long time ago, but I was still there at one point, right? And I had to unlearn and relearn. I had to change my mindset, and I had to be held accountable for my mouth and for my forked tongue. Right, to the point where I can speak on it now because I've been on both sides. And I regret that when it comes to me, because I see at that time it didn't resonate with me how deep it goes with the man. And you can really destroy your man based off of your tongue alone. You don't have to hit him with anything. You don't have to um, assert him in any other way. But with that tongue, the tongue's going to determine a lot. It's going to make an impression and a difference that you didn't anticipate. And a lot of times when we speak from emotion, hindsight is always 2020, but it's too late at that point because now you done planted that seed, and now that brother looking at you like, ooh, you said you was able to say that to me? You were capable of saying that to me? And you haven't apologized to saying that to me? Okay, yeah, not as much as I love you, I gotta move different. I gotta look at you different. I have to perceive, and I gotta question everything that you say because it's a state of your heart, your spirit, your character that's coming off a certain kind of way. No man wants a woman that's, as, if not more so, is equally as aggressive as he is. If that's the case, he can go deal with a man. He can go deal with a man if he wants that type of energy matched. And that's just the real. So there's a distinction. There's a difference. There's a different expectation, right? You come at a man and you matching his energy. Not only are you confusing him, but you're turning him off. And you're making him look at you like you're suspect. So whether you like it or you don't like it, that's the reality of the situation. And that's why accountability and self-reflection can be so helpful. And it can be a peace tool that gets utilized in the concept of a relationship. And the reason is because you're not walking around like you can do no wrong, like you're perfect, like it's always somebody else's problem, like it's always somebody else's responsibility to find a solution or to make adjustments and to make sacrifices. I want us to get past this notion that women can only have the expectation of being women, but everybody else has to sacrifice because you are feminine and you are a woman. That is craziness to me. Because if that is the way that God created us, then things would be in order, and they are not. Women are raising children alone. Women are, and I'm not saying and implying that it's all women's fault. I am just saying that a lot of times when women have the primary defense of the tongue and of disrespect and of matching men's energy, as leveling the playing field, you're not going to get the result that you intend to get. You're going to feel better for the moment, but the long-term effects are going to be detrimental. And if for nobody else, you can get over it, that man can get over it, but will those children get over it? Will they recoup? How will it impact them to pick their spouses or to choose members of the opposite sex? Right? We got to think about stuff like that. You talk, what's that concept? You treat people the way that you want to be treated. Come on now. Come on. How powerful is that? If a man came at you with the same tongue that you go at him with just because you in your feelings or you feel like you've been aired or you didn't, he didn't meet your expectations, so you're going to lash out because you can't whoop him naturally or physically. So now guess what? Now I gotta this right here. But is it going to really, really backfire when it's all said and done? Because it's cute when you're in your 20s. Yeah, it's okay when you're in your 30s. In your 40s, ain't nobody gonna be bothered with that. Ain't nobody gonna tolerate that. And in your 50s, you done hit a brick wall, right? So listen. Don't shoot the messenger. All I'm saying is that we have to think about what's further out. And we have to get back to spiritual principles. We have to incorporate God into our relationships, y'all. We cannot run our relationships based off of man's concepts and basic principles that are created off of emotion and individualistic mindsets alone and expect for us to have long-term positive outcomes, right? And if God is not, that's one thing about me. Listen, I don't care what kind of man I've been with. I want to know what kind of relationship do you have with God? And how can you best express that to me? Because I know what my relationship is. Now, it's been up and down over the years, but anybody that says any different is a liar, right? I've had moments where I relied on God 110% of every decision that I've ever made. And there's sometimes I'd be like, you know what, I got this. And I'll come to you when I need you. Ooh, didn't turn out so good. But I had to learn what worked for me by learning what didn't work for me, right? My point being is that if he's not the foundation, and God is people refer to God as so many different things. I can go on and on. I refer to him as God, right? So if God's not the basis of our relationship or the foundation of my relationship with you, and the only way that God can be that is if you and I are equally yoked in that area, right? And for me personally, I can't be with an unbeliever. Unbeliever. I can't. It's just not going to work. I rely way too much, and God is way too active in not just my life, but the people that I'm connected to, for me and you to be looking at things through a totally different lens. We can't even build off of anything if we don't have that, right? And so, y'all, I can go on and on, but I want to go on to this next video, and we'll talk about it afterwards. Give me just a minute.
I give the utmost respect, but I demand mine.
I heard that.
And you don't have to give it to me. And if you don't, I'm not going to be confrontational with you. I'm going to politely vacate the premises. Let the clown have the circus. I give the utmost respect, but I demand mine.
I heard that.
And you don't have to give it to me. And if you don't, I'm not going to be confrontational with you. I'm going to politely vacate the premises. Let the clown have the circus. But, in a room full of clowns, man, I can't be part of the circus, man. When you entertain a clown, you become part of the circus. I give the utmost respect, but I demand mine.
I heard that.
And you don't have to give it to me. And if you don't, I'm not going to be confrontational with you. I'm going to politely vacate the premises. Let the clown have the circus.
And that's how a lot of people, and I want to specifically gear this toward men, they're looking at things. Because at the end of the day, they're not going to win an argument with the average woman. Because unless the average woman takes accountability, it's going to be a one-sided argument. And you're not going to be able to meet each other halfway to seek a solution. So what are men doing? They're moving around. They're bowing out gracefully, as non-confrontational as possible, as peaceful as possible, when they could be incorporating that peace in the relationship, in building and manifesting and providing a lineage, setting the example. They can't find that in you. Then guess what? Not only are they going to have to bow out and move around, but at some point they're going to have to evaluate what made me get into that relationship and invest as much as I did in the first place. So now I got some work to do. I got some self-reflection to do, and that goes both ways. Because Lord knows, I'm speaking from experience. I got into a long-term relationship, y'all. I didn't see how I was gonna get out of it. When I got out of that thing, it took some finesse. It took some really careful, intentional moves to try to minimize the damage at the end of the day. So the kids don't feel it. So I don't have to repair it long after I'm gone. And I don't have to apologize for a whole lot. See, there's a term when you're dealing with men and women nowadays, and they're talk about the hyenas and the lionesses. And there's a distinction made between the two, right? And I know I'm a lioness because when you start getting into the characteristics of the actual animal of the hyena and the lioness, lionesses move quietly. They move very smoothly. They don't go and knock out windows. They don't go and flatten tires. They don't go and throw you on child support just because they're mad at you. They don't go and besmirch your name to anyone within earshot and that is willing to listen, right? They move around. They back up. They go through the healing process. They lick their wounds, and then they proceed. And if that lioness has cubs, guess what? It's a whole nother disposition and beast. Because she's not just responsible for herself, but for the life that she brought into this world. Now, hyenas are loud. They're reckless. They're showboaters. They're reactive. And they work well in groups. You don't ever see a hyena cutting up by themselves. Right? And you can liken that to two different types of women that react to breakups, that react to dissolution of relationships. And just because it doesn't work out doesn't give you the permission to ruin someone else's life. And I'm referring to men and women because you got some men out here that are ruthless. They are ruthless and they will use every advantage that they have within their minds in order to ruin you before they walk off, drive off, move off, whatever it is that they do. And keep it moving. They can dismiss the kids, they can dismiss you, and act like it never happened. Even though it surfaces sometime later, we're talking about the behavior, we're talking about the characteristics, right? And we also have to keep in mind that karma is real. Karma doesn't discriminate, karma don't give a damn what your name is, how big your butt is, how perky your boobs are, how pretty your lace front is, how long your eyelashes are, how finesse your tongue may be. Karma doesn't care about any of the things that you care about. So we have to really, if nothing else, you should be mindful. You should be aware that what goes around comes around. And nowadays, it ain't even taken a day, a month, 6 months. We're talking immediate reciprocation when it comes to karma. Karma is exposing behavior and things, and you are going to pay for the wrongs and the injustices that you have served upon someone else, right? And so when, even though, what's his name? Child, I can't even think of the man's name. Lord have mercy. And I used to really, don't shoot the messenger, but receive the message. The fact of the matter is that he moves around. He's not going to cause a ruckus. He is not going to kick up dust. He is not going to attempt to ruin your life. And he's in a position financially and celebrity wise to be able to do just that if that's what he chooses to do. But because he sees you, I see you. Guess what? I'm gonna move around. I'm just gonna depart myself from you. And I'm gonna use this as a teachable moment. And in my next relationship, I'm more equipped to learn about what I want and what I don't want, how to be able to determine sides. But you don't have to be loud. You don't have to be boisterous. You don't have to be aggressive. You don't have to you don't have to retaliate for whatever injustices you have concocted in your mind that have been served against you. You don't have to do those things because you're not God, number one. Number two, it's too much. It's too much for one person to have to be. And then guess what? When that comes full circle, where do you think it's going to land? That's why God said, let me fight that battle. Let me take over that injustice. Let me deal with that. You just stay on purpose. You just do what you're supposed to do. I didn't guarantee you your life was going to be perfect. I didn't guarantee you that your life was going to be smooth sailing with no hiccups and no times where you felt like you were being done wrong. But I did say I was going to always be here. I did say that I will fight your battles if you seek me, if you seek my guidance, if you seek my direction, if you seek my word, right? And so it comes to a point where we have to know our limitations as humans, as male and as female, to say that this ain't my battle to fight. This ain't on me. If I came into the situation with a genuine, authentic, and honest intentions and good heart, guess what? And you did me wrong, you know what I'm going to do? God, he sees a lot more than I do. You could be wounded. You could have just came out of a relationship where you haven't healed from it, that you haven't told me about. There's a lot of things that God sees that I'm not going to be able to see. So who am I to take that upon myself to say, guess what? This is on me to retaliate. I'm gonna get my get back. And now you done signed up for something you ain't even know wasn't even your battle to fight. You done put your nose and inserted yourself into something that had nothing to do with you, and you were collateral damage at that point in time. And all of us are collateral damage. Okay? It's about the mindset, y'all. So there is, I'm not gonna make this too much longer because I know I can get a little long-winded sometimes, and I don't want to lose people. But I wanted to emphasize, and I wanted to make a point of saying, when it comes to relationships, it would really be helpful if not only did we educate ourselves through God's word first, and then seek other God-based material to enlighten and enhance our knowledge on what our roles as women are, as men are, as men in relationship stands, as women in relationship stands. Because if you know your role and you know who you are and you know where you stand and what you are responsible for and what you're not responsible for equally, right? Then guess what? Whatever ain't your business becomes God's business. Or he will assign somebody else to deal with that portion of the business. But everything ain't for you to react to. That's why I find such power in the saying that I have to pick my battles. And every battle ain't for you to fight, because it ain't yours. Even though you feel personally offended and you feel personally attacked possibly, doesn't mean that you have to react. Let me tell you something. I learned that, and that is one of the biggest lessons and the most profound that I have learned, is that you are sent distractions every single day. You are sent people to attack you and your character every single day, right? So what we got? We got 26 lights and 50. Oh, 50. Okay, so hold on. Oh no. Okay. Listen. Let me get out the chat. That's what I'm. Miss Audrey, I'm gonna get out the chat. Hey SJ. Hey Rachel. Welcome. Peace and blessings to y'all. No dramas in the building. Yes, indeed. We got Mr. Oates. It's so good to see you. Yes, thank y'all for being here. I appreciate y'all engaging. My bros, Mel W. Yes. Okay, so let me see. I believe one of the biggest challenges I see is that too many women try to outman men, and that serves no benefit or purpose. And you know what? I totally agree with that. And I'm going to tell you, I feel like because there's so much unhealed trauma and bitterness. We don't use that word enough, but I think bitterness really describes a lot of women, especially when it comes to single moms where they feel like they've been abandoned and kind of put in a position to raise children alone without the participation. And it appears a lot of times like the father or the significant other, the former significant other, is able and has the freedom and the wiggle room to move around with impunity, right? Without consequence. But I need for women to understand that everything is not going to be within your level of understanding, and everything is not always about you. There are a lot of men out here that sire several children from several different women. But then you, as one of the baby mamas, are going to walk around and feel like you're the only one that's been done wrong, offended, or deserted. And that is so not true. In situations like that, you have to learn, make it a teachable moment, learn from the experience, move around, learn how to navigate with the circumstances that you have been given. And I was telling Miss, I spoke to my girl Laverne yesterday, and I had a rough day yesterday. It didn't start out that way. Yesterday was smooth sailing, and then boy, when 1 o'clock hit, all hell broke loose in my life. I was one thing after another. And had this happened 10 years ago, I would even go as far as to say 7 years ago, I would have unraveled. And you know, the first thing that I thought, which promoted growth, and I felt good about that. Not only about that, but just the mindset was that what is God sending and allowing these things, not sending, but allowing these things to happen in my life to try to teach me? It's something I haven't learned yet, because if it's something I learned, then it still wouldn't be happening. I'm telling you, the same stuff happened yesterday in different situations, back to back, because I didn't learn it the first time. I didn't learn it the second time. The third time, I was like, let me pump my brakes. Let me just sit back for a second. Hold up. Wait a minute. This is not a coincidence. This is not a one-off. God, what are you trying to teach me? I succumb to you. Let me just sit for a minute. Let me unplug. Let me detach. And let me go within. And let me connect to you through your word. And it wasn't no time. He was like, I'm trying to teach you something. Trying to teach you something. And I got it yesterday. And as soon as I got it, my day flipped around. And Miss Yo hit me up. And we had such a great conversation. And I'm here to tell you from experience, this too shall pass. Nothing lasts forever. And you know, a lot of times age, wisdom, experience, and trials and tribulations will teach you that. And establishing and strengthening your relationship with the higher power as you know them, right? Absolutely. And a lot of times, my dad used to always say, men are simple. Men ain't complicated. Men are simple. Women-made relationships, in my opinion, super complicated, because men are who they are. They're created the way that they're created. Women are multifaceted because we fulfill more roles than men do, especially when it comes to the childbirth, the child rearing, the emotional aspect of it. I heard a guy say many years ago, and at first I was offended. I ain't gonna even lie to you. He said, the day we get a woman president is the day that I'm using my passport to get the hell up out of here. And I was like, yeah, okay. Because the way that men have been running this world has really been working. But I digress. Y'all, I digress. Now I have more insight and more understanding. Hey, Mr. 86K, it's good to see you. Got the popcorn and you peeking through the bushes. Just as long as you peeking and you ain't coming with no smoke, we good. It's good to see you. No, for real, y'all. But now I understand because of the way that we were created. Men and women were created differently with different characteristics. Why? To bring order and to bring balance collectively, which is why we have a whole generation of single mothers raising kids, daughters and sons, and they have distinct characteristics and they stand out more than they do when you have a father present or a male dominant figure in the home that is respected and that is a provider and a teacher that is present, right? So I just wanted to make sure I put everybody in the same. I made it all encompassing. My point being is that there is a reason for order. There is a reason. There is a purpose why men are created a certain way. My dad used to say men are simple. Why do women want to complicate us? Because we don't know no different. We don't know no different. But when we learn, the one thing we don't want to do is react strictly off of emotion. We're a basket case and we create basket case children. We create a dysfunctional environment within the dwelling of our four walls if we don't learn that everything ain't about us. Everything ain't about just the woman. If that's the case, then God wouldn't have made man, and we wouldn't need man to procreate. We wouldn't need man to provide. Women would technically be able to do that on our own. And we have been deceived to think that we can successfully do it. And we have a generation of women that have bought into the idea, and not only just bought into it, but we're fighting for the idea that it is possible, and not only possible, but successful, right? Mel W says, this is unfortunately by design dating back to the days of slavery. Our government systems mirror the lessons of slavery, and that lessens the dependency and importance of men in the homes. Yeah, because guess what? If the men stepped in and maintained their essence of the power in which they were created, then the powers that be would be disarmed and they would be threatened. So they go to the strongest vessel of the union and they spend resources, years, decades, and then they weaponize the women against them, the men, because the men are the real threat. The masculine men are the real threat. Why do you think that there is such an attack on our masculine energy? They are putting, okay, so I hope I'm not putting my channel at risk, but I got to tell the truth. When I learned that they put serotonin and other chemicals, if you crack open the vegetables, the beans, the corn, the peas, popular vegetables that we've been exposed to that we told were actually nutritious for us that have no nutritional value, that we're given, or that we at one point we were given seeds. Now they don't even give us seeds. They just give us the food and they tell us what they want us to know about it, truth or not truth. And there's a lining. There was a point, like tuna fish, any type of canned fish, they put this lining in it. It used to be just the metal. That lining has actually feminine chemicals to feminize the men, the hormones, right? And when I learned that, at that point, I started cooking every day. I don't care how, as long as I got a minor child in my house, I will be cooking almost every day. Every blue moon, I have to be exhausted, sick, or my schedule, because I do have my own businesses. I will be all over the place, and I'm not going. I don't. I would rather my sons not eat 9, 10 o'clock at night, right? So if it's not going to be done, dinner's not going to be done by 6:30 at the latest, then we might explore different options. But now you have vegetarian restaurants, you have different restaurants where they vocalize or they put in plain writing what the ingredients are. They're a little bit healthier. But I'm telling you, I got canned goods for survival reasons. I use my mom raised me on canned goods. And now it's like, no, if it's not fresh, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. Even though the fresh and the homegrown or the garden grown is still subjected to stuff. Yes, fluoride. And yes, let me tell you, I went, okay, so Mel, I'm gonna drop the link. I'm just gonna drop the link because you spit. I don't know if you able to hit it or not, but you bringing up some really great points. How come I can't? My chat button is in the way. Okay. So no, there's a lot going on, but again, not to get too far off topic, there is an attack on the masculine man, his testosterone, his hormones, in order to disarm and to effeminize and to even the playing field between, and then you got the women thinking that they're masculine as the men, and then you got the men wearing skirts. It's just a whole lot going on, let me tell you. And it's a cesspool of misinformation, right? And so there has to be some type of reminder that, guess what, in order for us, and a resounding alarm has to be reiterated, that this is by design. This is intentional, y'all. This is orchestrated. This has been in motion for decades and decades and years upon years, while we're being entertained to death. Look at how much it costs to even go to a concert now, right? I personally, you couldn't pay me to go into a setting where there's thousands of people. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. Even if I was in my 20s or 30s, just based off of the climate of the culture, you got mass terrorists, you got people that target, large crowds, so forth and so on. There's just, I'm just not doing it. I can't even enjoy myself because the type of personality and the way my brain is set up, I'm always swiveling and looking at my surroundings. I'm not going to be able to concentrate on the entertainment or what's before me because I'm too busy watching everybody's behavior. You can't do that with thousands of people. You just can't do that. But there is an intentional attack upon our masculine men. And if that is not alone in itself alarming, then what in the world is going to get our attention? They're too busy. We are too busy fighting and at war with one another. You got the sprinkle and the damn drizzle people. You got the soft era guy, the soft woman guy, the soft woman era going on. It is like all of it's delusion. None of it's going to work. If you're not talking about the balance of the core family, the equilibrium of what God created us to be, because it requires a man and a woman to procreate and to create life and to extend life on out past your existence, then what are we having all of these other discussions about? As a woman, you're not going to be embraced. You're going to be disrespected as equally once it's all said and done. You're going to be demeaned. You're going to be minimalized, and you're going to basically alert the man that it is okay because you trying to be a man and you coming at him like you are a man. He's going to reciprocate the kind because that's just how he's set up. Now he's looked past the boobs and the butt and the eyelashes because of your mouth. Because of your mouth. My mother taught me, I used to watch how she interacted with my dad. And my dad, there was, when I was young, Thank God, he grew out of this. When I was young, he used to be really curt and really aggressive at some points, in my opinion. And I was like 4 or 5 years old when I noticed this at my mother. And I remember having a conversation with my mother when I got a little bit older, and I was brave enough to go and ask her because, I wasn't raised in an environment where you question your mom and daddy's relationship. That's just not how it worked, right? And I remember saying to her, Mom, I was like, why are you always so quiet? She said, because I have to pick my battles wisely. And I can't go at him the way he comes at me. I have to do it differently. And whether people agree with that or they don't, when I really digested that, because that was my mom. I'm watching everything she says. I'm modeling what she does. I'm paying attention. I'm taking notes, right? Because at one point, I want to be with a man too. I want a boyfriend. I want to be with, I don't want to be with no another woman. No disrespect to those who do. I'm just saying that ain't me, right? And so that really, she didn't know how much that planted a seed with me. Now, whether I always acted on it or not, I didn't. But I always went back to it. That was a foundational characteristic and principle that was instilled in me. And I absolutely always went back to that, to the point where I'm speaking it with y'all now, right? That's how much of an impression it has made upon my life. So I'm here to tell you that's not going to yield the results that you think it's going to yield. Women, what it's going to do is if you don't change and address it and hold yourself accountable and change it and switch your mindset so you can attract a different type of man, guess what? You're going to be alone, whether you got children or whether you don't, because men ain't dealing with this. And especially that we got generations. I am in my 50s, and we got 4 generations that are acknowledged while I'm in my 50s, including my generation. That's still 4 generations. At least at the very minimum, 2 of those generations ain't dealing with it. They're not having it. They cut from a different cloth. They got a different mindset. They got a different approach, and they have different justifications for why they are feeling the way that they're feeling. Right? Hey, Mel.
Hey, salute to you, sister. Salute to the chat. So thanks for summoning me up here.
Thank you for coming up. I appreciate you. Talk to me. What's going on?
Yeah. So I want to elaborate on the thing that I mentioned about the slave is dating back to slavery. And I think a lot of people have heard the whole Willie Lynch thing, and everyone knows the story. But true history shows that slaves had to get permission from their slave owners just to get married, and their marriages were never legally recognized. It was encouraged for slave men to become breeders and be wayward of that responsibility, because the design of slavery was to mentally condition the female slave who bear the children to raise and teach the children to fear and revere and respect the master.
Can you say that again? I want you to repeat that, because you can't know where you're going until you know where you've been, even if it's through your bloodline and your lineage. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that was worth repeating.
No, I'll say it again. Like I said, and this is stuff that I have studied and researched. The design of the slave of the slave master was to remove the male slave or teach the slave to be a breeder, so the female slave could solely teach her children to fear, revere, and respect the slave master, because they wanted the female slave to teach the slaves, younger slaves, males included, that their only source of survival rests in the hands of this white person or this white superior person. And that's one of the reasons why, even when the Civil War ended, you had a mass of former slaves returning back to work for their slave masters, because they were so used to being subservient people among these groups. So the slave masters' practice worked well.
And so now we transition that into the government systems and the government approaches. Yes, John, it definitely was brainwashed. So it's one of the hardest things to do is to now observe women. And I'm not being a misogynist in this. It's just, it is what it is. But observe women, particularly Black women, feel that they have an aggressive tongue to lessen men in ways that I've never seen any other race lessen men. And I think it goes back to, like I said, the slavery component, because I don't think I've ever in my life, and I grew up in the most southern town in Virginia, I don't think I've ever seen a white woman tell her husband how to be a man, or he's not a man, or feel that she has the right or the authority to take away his manhood. And I'm not saying they don't, but I'm just saying that it's more common for our Black sisters to question or think they have an identity of what a man is, especially when they don't have one, but what a man is compared to other races. So I think we're fighting a real battle here. And it's a battle that dates all the way back to slavery. And a lot of these young sisters who are on these programs don't understand the slave master was replaced with every government program that they're on. So when they say, I don't need a man, or they say I'm the mama and the daddy, all I think about is the slave master did his job. So that's the point I wanted to make on that.
He absolutely did his job, because whether we feel like we need a man or not, we got one, whether it's an actual man, whether it's the government, whether it's the resources that are made available to us, or whatever in their minds are replacements for an actual man that provides the same or similar, because it can't be the same, similar replacements of a man, of an actual man, right?
And Mrs. Kingman, let me respond to checking you, Boo, real quick. You are exactly right, sister, on that men set the tone, and a lot of men have not set good examples. Go back to what I just stated to you about slavery, and what the goal of the mother was to teach these boys, because a man was absent and was encouraged to be absent, how to fear, revere, and respect the slave master. So now we have a record number, 75% of households are divorced. We have more and more people, especially Black mothers, who are single parents in a product in the home. We have more and more disasters when it comes to co-parenting relationships, because men don't have access to the rights of their children, nor have these men been conditioned to want access to the rights of those children. So I'm not absolving men from their responsibilities, but what I'm saying is we have created a society leading first and foremost the women who raised a lot of these sons to feel that they don't have the burden of responsibility, or they have isolated their fathers from teaching them the burden of responsibility to take the lead or be the head of a household. I was blessed to be raised with my mother and father married for 43 years before my mom passed. And my dad was always the hard worker and the pillar in my family. But that's a lesser and lesser and lesser and lesser thing that's occurring today. So I'm not saying that men don't have that burden of responsibility, that they have failed, but it goes back to the mother's responsibility of being the first teacher for the children.
Absolutely. I absolutely also want to piggyback off of what you're saying when it comes to the roles, right? When you're saying that it stems as far back as the slave masters. Now, when you talk about the tone of the males and the females, where is God in this equation, right? And so I say that because during the slave times, correct me if I'm wrong, Mel, but even though they allowed you, the slave masters permitted you to go to a church and worship, they didn't feel threatened with the fact that they were to be your God.
No, sister, that is correct.
That was a job.
So I say that because we are in a time where we're living in a godless society now, to where if you look at these platforms with TikTok, with IG, with even YouTube, all of them, Facebook, they don't, it's like you're censored to incorporate God as the basis and the foundation of the conversation, of the relationship, of the basis of the family, as opposed to the women and the feminist movement, the modern women, the sprinkle, the soft men, the soft men era, the soft woman era. There seems to be a lot of different levels of confusion due to the fact that we have lost collectively as a culture that strong foundation. And I'm talking about dating pre-slavery, not post-slavery, but pre-slavery, because they gave us the image of the God that they wanted us to serve. And I yield the floor.
Well, and you know what? And the thing about that, as far as the image, you look at today, we don't know what men are, even from the pulpit, if you see the way some of these preachers act and behave. We don't have the idea of a lead first male in the pulpit. We have these people who are, I believe, I got to be blunt, they are fashion designers, and they are catchphrase makers. They are political Pied Pipers. They're not committed to teaching the word of God and the idea of males leading the homes. And I think everyone on here has no problem with the idea of a male leading the home. And yes, pastors have gone against God because they don't even teach about the importance of men being providers. So how can a man be a provider if he's not even if his pastor won't even teach him about the importance of being a provider, going out and working instead of trying to be a content creator and hoping to go viral, or trying to make a rap career or doing something. A lot of these young boys don't have calluses on their hands because they're afraid or they have never been taught to do so. And when a man tried to teach them, their mother interfered and caused conflict and an argument. So, I don't even know if I trust a lot of our unfortunate black brothers who have gone to the pastoral route to be the heads of teaching young men or older men on what the responsibilities are, because I think they're lax in their duties or derelict in their duties as of late. And that's why so many people are turning away from the church and not going to the church.
Absolutely. I concur with that. And with that being said, I appreciate your perspective and I appreciate your context on the topic of the live, right? And I know there's so many different perspectives and vantage points that we can look in, different layers that we can look at this whole subject from. But I want to concentrate and I want to definitely focus on the topic at hand. And when it comes to the title of the video, do you use your tongue as a weapon? And how is that working out for you? My focus and my concentration has been on the females, particularly because it seems as if the women's tongue has more of a sting and more of a penetration than it does the man. And I want to focus on that because that's what I see. And I'm not, again, if you've been here from the beginning of the live, made the disclaimer and vocalized from the beginning that I'm not exempting or excusing the man in his behavior or his lack of participation in the culture overall. What I am saying, though, is I am a woman and I can speak from only a woman's perspective. And with that perspective accompanies my observation. And I am specifically, the motivation of me doing this live specifically came from the aggression that has been displayed and being displayed from a lot of the women in this sector against men and being the aggressor against men. And I don't want to lose focus of that, right? And so I don't know if you have anything to
Yeah.
expound or add value onto that, Mel W. But I don't want to lose the topic of conversation in the discussion. I want to really focus and hone in on this because I see it personally as a real issue.
Well, no, absolutely, sister. I didn't mean to take us down a rabbit hole,
No, no,
but
no.
no,
You're fine. You're fine. And I wasn't directing that to anybody specifically. You know me. I got ADHD, man. I got ADHD, and I will get off topic quick. So I just wanna. Sometimes I do it for my own personal benefit. So
nah,
no way was I focusing on that or directing that
you're
towards you.
you're
But I
good,
and
sister.
it,
I did want to. I did actually have something on that. First, salute to you, Bolo. I did want to touch on something with that, and that was when I said
Hello.
about women trying to outmen men. And I noticed that where there are certain people, I'm not going to call them out by name, but they are the ones who are constantly telling men in this sector or questioning men in this sector's sexuality. They are constantly yelling on their panels or screaming on their panels and speaking at the top of their tongue, of their voices. And the thing about it for men is I think they believe that's the way they get attention, or they think that's how a man would talk. But men don't talk like that. I don't think I've ever raised my voice on any panel I've ever been on. But men don't speak that way. Men are more deliberate, direct, and to the point. They're not getting in shouting matches. Sure, if you want to, like KB messes with sugar draws every now and then. But I'm just saying, but they do a little banter there. But in general, men are more direct to the point. Where I see a lot of these women have this aggression, but it's a false aggression. But then they want you to recognize them as feminine and be heard. And I learned a long time ago, and I think a lot of people in this chat realize this, and you realize it too, Mr. Kimi, as well as Bolo, is the most effective person that's heard is the person who can speak the softest but have the most powerful message. Because if a person, all they do is scream and they're yelling and they're loud and they use their same catchphrases over and over again, people get drawn out of that. And the challenge and the issue that I have with a lot of women who are in those 50s, early 60s that get on here slamming tables and screaming and yelling and all of that other nonsense is you want to be respected for your age and your wisdom, but you don't speak like a person with wisdom when you shout. You don't speak like a person with wisdom when you question people personally or their sexuality or all these other things. So I think that's their passive aggressive way of being aggressive. It's similar to like if you see, and I'm not judging people about their sexuality, but like if you see a woman dating another woman who looks like a man, even if that woman may look like a man, try to dress like a man, that woman is still going to have feminine characteristics, and you'll notice that. And so they feel like if they have to deal with young boys particularly, they have to be overly aggressive, where men don't do that. So I think this is just the same similar situation, and I hope that makes sense in how I connected that.
Absolutely. And I appreciate your perspective. I also appreciate that it comes from someone that has a personal testimony that can vouch from either side. And because your words are valued as well as Bolo. And hey Bolo, hey babes, I appreciate you hitting.
Hey, how you doing?
I already know you got some fire to add, but before you do that, I just want to say thank you, Mel, for your perspective, for your information. You always bring enlightenment, and you expound and you make it a whole picture because not just Miss Yo, but many people say that are wise and that have information to share that you don't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. And so with that, Bolo, what you got to add?
I just want to say salute to you firstly, for this conversation. You're probably one of the best women to actually have this conversation, giving your own personal testimony. And shout out to Mel for his perspective. I just wanted to add a couple things. I think there has been a cultural change in terms of how we actually interface with each other in relationships, and just not even intimate, just communication within itself. And I think the inception of that change is when we got social media. A lot of our ideas where relationships are concerned have come from people that we see on TV, on YouTube, without even knowing like their own personal life as to how successful have they been in their own relationships. We have the whoopies of the world. What's that show called with all them ladies on there? They have major influence on women, and I think a lot of the women have used the power given to them in a wrong way, and they are responsible for the most part, in my opinion, for the divide of the family. You understand? And there's too many cases of that where they choose to not try to work it out with the father of the child, but want to take away the child from that father. And that mouth you're talking about, it is irrefutable that there are too many women that suffer from using that mouth in a negative way. And like you said, how is it working for them? Well, we've seen the results. It's not good. In terms of divorce rates, men are the one. If you check the studies, men are the one that's trying to fix things in marriages and keep it going. Most of the women are like, hell no, I could do better. I deserve more. You ain't shit. I don't need no man. These are the taglines that you see, right? So I want to also shout out to women like you that recognize that there is an issue, and are taking looking within as to, was I a part of the problem or the solution? That's the whole point at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? And that goes for everybody. Like you say, you gotta think about that. In these situations, am I a part of the problem, or am I a part of the solution, or do I even want solution? You know what I'm saying? And if people are really honest with themselves, nobody doesn't have to point the finger at you to say you're the problem. You know you're the problem just by asking the right questions. You know you're the problem, male or female. You know what I'm saying? But yeah.
Facts. No, those are facts, Bolo. And you've made some really accentuated some really great points. When it's all said and done, in my opinion, at the end of the day, we cannot discount, and we cannot, now we can sit up all day and we can debate and argue what we perceive the man's role and the woman's role to be, but we cannot do that without including the factor of what navigates and what makes an impression upon us culturally and community wise. And as Mel W stated, and I have heard many others state, that when it's all said and done, we are the only culture where there is a war between the man and the woman collectively in our culture and in our community. Now, our forefathers tried to set as much of an example as they could. However, you can't discount the history of slavery, which was designed and promoted to instill different ideologies and different characteristics and normalize them as if that is the structure that we should be basing our family unit off of. However, when you know better, you do better. Just because that was what was impressed upon us and emulated before us does not mean that it works for us. And we have seen for generation after generation that it does not collectively work for the better good of us culturally and community wise. And with saying that, I just want to say that the man isn't perfect, the woman isn't perfect. I again will reiterate that I can only speak from a woman's perspective, from a mother's perspective, from the significant other's perspective in my feminine energy. I am not here to speak for men. I am not here to speak against men. I think we have enough of people in this world that don't have a collective or an individual interest in our men to do so. So for me to do so is counterproductive. And that is the message that I am trying to send, is that we can sit and finger point all day long as to who is at fault, predominantly as to the deterioration of our core family. But at the end of the day, what does it help us? If it helps us. And what I am seeing and what I am visualizing and what is being emulated to me, right, is that the women in this particular sector, because I invest so much time and energy into our sector and into our chats and to the content creators of this particular sector of YouTube, that the women are destroying with their mouths and with their forked tongues any possibility of us healing and us moving together for the greater good of not just us, because our time is bought, our time is borrowed, but we are procreating. Even if it's at a smaller level, we are still having children, we are still providing and procreating families that we are responsible and are, as mothers and as the primary feminine energy in our children's, whether they're female or males lives, definitely make the first and surmountable impression as to how they are to navigate once they leave the nest. And with that, I yield the floor.
Nah, I just want to. Oh, go ahead, Bolo. Bolo, you got it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that the women have become what they, in the inception, was fighting against. They claim to be abused, and because of being submissive, they were being held down. And it's a case of the person that felt that they were abused has now become the abuser. So they abuse the system that gives them the power. That especially in the Western world, like, women have a lot of power. Their voice is more powerful than ever before, and the government, everything is behind them. You know what I'm saying? And they also stick together. So the culture that I was speaking about, by and large, the women are responsible for that culture that has deteriorated the state of the black family in a very, very big way. Yes, the men have played a role because they've made a decision that I'm not going to stick around and take this abuse, right? It's too much, right? However, it went to the point where you guys had a disagreement. Some of the women, with their tongue and their actions as well, makes it almost damn near impossible for there to be a solution where we can come together as a family. And this is the reality.
And so I want to use a real life scenario that actually happens. So every Saturday, I'm a coach. I've coached high school athletics for 15 years. I just recently retired from it. I open up the gym though, and I was just playing today. That's why my back's hurting. But and every Saturday I open up the gym. There was a black kid, who transferred out of our school and went to another school to go play for a white coach. And those people didn't want him up there. So then he went to another white school, and that coach didn't want him over there. But guess what coach he gives the hardest time to and the biggest confrontation to? It's the black coach. And this goes back to the slavery discussion. We have taught our young, and our mothers are teaching our young sons that their biggest confrontation and conflict are the black men. And in a lot of ways, a lot of the black men don't step up. The ones who need to don't step up and bear that responsibility. Because I know that young man wouldn't have given that same energy he's given to me, who's tried to help him that he does to those other two coaches who basically cast him off to the side. This is the battle every single day that I face in the classroom. This is the battle that most Black people in educational positions of influencing young Black men face, because somebody has scarred them, whether it be their mother scarring them against men, or whether it be a Black man scarring them by them observing mistreatment of their mother. The Black man absolutely holds some responsibility and some bearings to it. Now, you guys have talked very well about how people have spoke on these platforms and these media platforms. Bolo, you hit a nail on the head. You mentioned something about people using these platforms to become bullies. And I'm going to say this, and I'm not speaking about one person in particular, but I have observed that someone would share their story about being abused or being neglected or all these other hardships as a child. And psychology shows that a lot of people then turn around and they use their alter egos or these alternate personalities to become the person they wish they were to address their bullies when they were kids. So I see a lot of these women on these platforms who aggress men in certain ways try to overtalk men because they probably weren't heard in real life, or they probably aren't heard in real life. And you can look at Miss Akemi right now as a prime example. There is no platform where we should ever have someone talking and constantly interrupting or bickering back and forth. Miss Akemi does a great job of letting anybody up on the platform get what they have to say out or share what they have to say. And if they go long-winded, I know I can be. She would just interject on that responsibly. And likewise, I respect her so much. I'm not going to come up here and try to overtalk her on her own platform. But you look at these particular women who we're talking about. It's because I think they have been triggered to find fault in men that they never knew how to address or have a conversation with men. And that's why I think they're in the state of condition that they are when it comes to relationships. Some of them were never even married. So, and I listen, I can be a tough cuss with my wife sometimes. And, when it comes to me making demands or she makes demands. But one thing she's always done is she's always respected my voice. If I say, honey, I'm done with the conversation, she may not like it. She's not afraid of me, but it means we're not going to talk about it right then and right there. And I think that's the lost art of a man being a trusted leader, because my wife knows if I say I'm done with the conversation, it's not that I know more than she does. It's just right now, this is not a good time for us to talk. And that's being the head of a household and a wife trusting her husband to be the head of the household. And we don't have enough of the marriage component in these situations, I believe.
Facts.
We talk about roles and understanding our roles, but again, it goes back to the culture. In this culture, the roles have been smeared. There's not a clear, concise idea in this new culture of relationships where a man's role and a woman's role is. Everything is all mixed up and turned upside down because the women want to play the men's role and want the men to be essentially playing the women's role. This is the new cultural wave. So we have to look at this from a cultural basis. There's women like Miss Yo Thoughts, Miss Akemi. When they speak on this topic, they're coming from a space where they're thinking about, traditional women and, religion and stuff like that. When you look at the broader scope of the population in the Western Hemisphere, it's the total opposite. The way the women think and what they actually want to do in a relationship is just polar opposites to what you guys think. And therein lies the real problem. All right. So that's why there's going to be forever a conflict between men and women in the Western world where these relationships are concerned, because that is the root cause of the problem. It is the culture and the ideas behind the culture where the women are concerned. And that's my opinion.
My bad, y'all. I done locked myself out my keyboard. I don't
That's all right. Mhm.
Ooh,
Yeah,
child. Okay. No,
we
for
needed
real.
that laugh.
No, y'all bringing such the devil is a liar. Okay, so y'all listen. I am so glad and so grateful that y'all hit the platform and you were able to bring your masculine and your male perspective to the conversation. Listen, I just want to reiterate that none of us are perfect. None of us were created in perfection. We all have room to grow. We all are granted room for error, but at the end of the day, it's about what grace we are giving to one another, right? And so we have some families out here that are blessed to have the because at this point, unfortunately, we are at the point where I consider it to be a blessing to have the mother and the father together in the household, understanding their roles, procreating, raising their children with the balance of what God intended during His creation. In a lot of cases, though, we don't have that. And that's the conversation that I feel needs to be had because when it comes to, we went through a really, to me, it was a long period of time where you have single moms raising children, and because they're able to financially support them, they felt like, okay, well, then that's all is needed. And then by the time they find out that that they needed more, guess what? It's too late at that point, whether the fathers abandoned the family, whether the mothers felt that they didn't need them. It seemed like there was less tolerated on both sides and less sacrifice and less willing to meet each other halfway for the greater good, right? And you said it right, Bolo. I definitely consider myself a traditional woman. One thing that I can say is that looking at how the modern women think, if you want to give it a term, because there definitely has been issued a term on social media platforms. It is definitely counterproductive, if to nobody else, it's for the upcoming generations, because all of our time is limited here. But what are we leaving? What are we leaving? And what message are we sending? And because the mother is the first point of contact for her offspring, and at the end of the day, we're supposed to be leaving legacies and creating, um, generations to come. What are we leaving them? And so, with all of that being said, I don't want to belabor the point. I'm just grateful that, both of you gentlemen were able to come up and speak your piece. If there's anything else that you feel of value that you would like to add, I would definitely welcome it. Um,
I,
and
I
I'll,
want to
I'll
thank
be, I'll
you
be, I'll
for
be.
allowing me to come. I want to thank you for allowing me to come up. Salute to the brother Mel. Salute to the platform. One of the best YouTube channels in the world, and I am not hyping it up. That's facts. The content is amazing. The conversations are amazing. And I just want to salute to you. And I want to say to the people watching the replay, continue the conversation in the comment section because I'm sure there's a lot of points, valid points that we want to make. And yeah, have at it in the comment section. And with that, y'all have a good evening. Thank you, babes. Have a good evening. Mel, salute,
right,
man.
Good, bro. I'm
thank
I'm gonna
you.
drop. I do have one thought I do want to share, and I have to be a realist. I am a traditionalist, and I do believe in role establishment. And I
Yes,
think a lot of the reason why things have become such a fickle in our communities is because of the breakdown of the role establishment. Mothers are the first teachers to children. And so I think that we need to take that a little bit more serious, and people need to stop having trial marriages or trial relationships that breed children. And so when we realize that and accept that and stop following this white feminist version of liberation for women and go back to enjoying and embracing the role of motherhood within our families, our kids will start eating healthier. Our kids will become more nurtured. We won't be trying to hear a lot of women try to over aggress men, and we will see men step up and be the real leaders in the household as they should be. Because right now we don't have enough of that, and I think it all starts, not being biased, but it does start with the woman in the home. And I'm not saying she can't go work, and I'm not saying she shouldn't, but I do believe it starts with the woman in the home nurturing the children and compelling the man to be the head of the household instead of aggressing him to be the head of the household. And that's my opinion, and that's my view. And with that, I will drop down. Ms. Kimi, you are awesome and you are amazing. You just keep doing what you're doing, and I appreciate you, sister. Peace.
Appreciate you. Peace and blessings, Mel. Thank you. Yes, indeed. Okay, so that is a great part to wrap up, and I do have some thoughts, and we're gonna make this a quick outro, right? And so I just want to promote this for anybody that's coming in, late. Please catch the replay. You're going to need the context of the entire conversation in order to grasp what the message was during this live stream. I want to say I appreciate to everyone in the chat. A special shout out to my mods. If you don't mind, please drop Bolo's link to his channels. Double speaks to his channels. Peace and blessings to you, Pastor. Thank you for coming through. Miss Yo Thoughts, definitely. I'm gonna do an outro, but it'll give time to definitely drop everybody. So if you haven't subbed up to these channels, you'll be doing yourself a disservice if you do not. All of them have value and have a specific message that they are trying to spread far and wide. And a lot of times, especially from the sector that we're in, the viewership and the subscriber counts are granted to a lot of the beef and the things that provide great entertainment. But when it comes to applying to our daily or being applicable to our daily principles of our lives, I want to be able to say that we give the same energy to those that have a specific message to send that don't necessarily participate in the beef. With that being said, I just want to give some food for thought, and I want to say appreciate to my panel members. We got Mbolo, we got Mel W. Oh, Mel, please drop Mel W's link in the chat as well. And Mel, are you a mod? Could have sworn I made you a mod. Hold on a second. Because if not, guess what? Guess what? Hold on a second, y'all. Type in the chat, Mel, because for some reason I don't see. Oh, there you are. Okay, yes, you are a mod. Okay, yes, please drop Mel's link in the chat as well. Hey, Philly 2K, I know I spoke to you. Thank you. Yes, well, that's my whole point. My whole point is not to become the most popular, but to become relevant in the message. And that's what I definitely want to convey when it's all said and done. So I appreciate y'all. Hey, El Boogie coming out the bushes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And anybody I might have missed, we got Juicy Fruit in the house. Thank you for being here. I definitely, let me take a moment to give a shout out to my my contributors to the platform. I appreciate y'all in more ways than you know. We got Kim R in the house. Thank you so much for your Cash App. And we got the beautiful Miss Kim R and Audrey Cathcart. Cathcart. Lord have mercy. Charge it to my head, not my heart. Lord, I get up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock every morning. I don't care what time I go to bed. And so people wonder why, like by 8:30, 9 o'clock, I be just like checking out, and it's inadvertent. I don't be doing it on purpose, but my body just be like, okay, you are the age that you are, ma'am. You push yourself. You do multiple jobs. You fulfill multiple roles. Now it's time for you to rest. Time for you to take your rest. But before I do that, I want to give some food for thought. And this I want to definitely put some emphasis on, because to me, this is not my words, but I'm adopting them as my words because this spoke nothing but truth for me, right? And the one intro that I want to give to what I'm going to say is that the tongue is a reflection of the state of our hearts. Whatever the mouth speaks, it comes from the essence of our hearts, and our souls are all intertwined, right? You can't disconnect one from the other. The mouth is the last utilization and vessel that is connected, and it's the one that articulates the essence and the spirit of where the heart lies. And so, with that being said, a person with a harsh tongue has an angry heart. A person with a negative tongue has a fearful heart. A person with an overactive tongue or overreactive tongue has an unsettled heart. A person with a boasting heart has an insecure heart. A person with an impure tongue has a nasty heart. A person who has a critical tongue has a bitter heart. On the other hand, because there has to be balance, a person who's always encouraging has a grateful heart. A person who speaks gently has a loving heart. A person who speaks truthfully has an honest heart. And I'm just going to finish it off with this. What kind of heart do you have? I appreciate y'all. Much love, peace, and blessings. I'll see y'all in the next chat. I love y'all. Have a great night.